Corona. This is Corona Carbonos, from the Corona Carbonos. Okay. Okay. השאלה היא מתי מתחילים קורבנות המלחמה. אם זה שלום, מה זה מלחמה? So we began last year on Monday morning, the Bachodesh Hashlishi, L'tzeis b'nei Yisro, Meretz Mitzrayim, in Torah in Parshas Yisro. And we learned most of the first chapter, almost till the end. We're up to page Samach Zayin, column 1, or page 133, Samach Zayin, column 1, close to the bottom, I think. The line starts Hashem Leishan Nisi, around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 lines from the bottom, 133, or Samach Zayin, column 1. What was the summation of what we learned? The Navi Malachi says, Ani Hashem, this was the last point, Ani Hashem, Lo shonisi, va'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem. Literally, I Hashem have not changed, meaning I have not been altered, I have not been obliterated, I haven't been eliminated, and so too b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem. You too have not ended, despite many attempts. Nobody managed to put an end to you. And this is how many Mefarshim explain. It's a very powerful presentation, that because of our eternal connection, so my eternity guarantees your eternity. There's no world without God, and there's no world without the Jewish people. Many people tried to change that reality, as we unfortunately know too well. Many people till today would crave that reality. Somehow it makes them feel better. But the creator of the world says that it's intrinsic to reality. Bereshis, b'shvil Torah, b'shvil Yisro, b'nei Yaakov lo chilis. That's on one level. Here in the Maimer, Balatanya went and explained a deeper meaning in this. It's actually a question. Or more than a question, it's a wonder. It's a wonder. What's the wonder? Ani Hashem lo shanisi, va'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem. Chilisem from the word klois hanefesh, like it says in Tehillim, nichsefa v'gam kolsa nafshi. When the soul thirsts and yearns and pines and goes out, since the soul is sensitive, since the soul has an antenna that absorbs the truth of Ani Hashem lo shanisi. So how can it be? I'm wondering, v'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem, that you weren't moved to the point of kilisem, of your soul desiring to become one. What's the point of Ani Hashem lo shanisi? That was one of the main points here in the Maimer, and he explained it at length, especially through the texts of davening. Baruch sha'amar v'haya ha'olam, malchuscha malchus kol olamim. It says, Baruch Hashem Elokeinu b'shamayim imal v'la'aretz mitachas al kol shevach ma'aseh yadecha. It says, Baruch l'netzach tzurenu malkeinu v'ge'aleinu b'yirei k'dosh mishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu yitzem b'sharsum. I hope from Monday till today, the davening in these words was enhanced, elevated, and explained at length the precision in all of these words. But the main point was, to sum it up, it's very hard to sum it up, but the main point is that all Brias HaOlam, to use yeshivish language, all Brias HaOlam is an uptaich in Oir, not in Moir. Brias HaOlam is an experience of Oir, not of Moir. In other words, Brias HaOlam is a definition. It's an experience of Oir. As he puts it, it's a ha'ara ba'alma. It's the ray of the Ein Sof articulated to the point that we call it a world, whatever that world looks like, spiritual, even the highest spiritual worlds, all the way down to the lowest physical world. And just like the ray of the sun, it comes from the sun. And it's authentic, it's not a lie, it comes from the sun. But nonetheless, as he says, if there's clouds outside, it's not like the sun is having a bad day, the sun disappeared, the sun is any less powerful. It's like if there's clouds, oh, okay, today we can go land on the sun. No. The clouds affect how the ray enters into your house, how much vitamin D you're going to get if you go outside, how hot it is outside, how bright, how shiny it is outside, if it's a winter day or it's a summer day. The winter and the summer affects me and you. Some Jews are in Florida, in their natural habitat, and some Jews remain loyal to New York because they love New York, like you and I. I was Shabbos in Florida, in Boca Raton for a Shabbaton, so I saw the mass migration of the Jewish people to Florida. Quite a phenomenon. But for the sun, there's no weather, there's no summer and winter. You understand? The sun doesn't experience a winter. The sun doesn't wake up in the morning and say, it's a cold, depressing, rainy, horrible, grouchy, depressing, kalamutna, dreary day. The sun doesn't wake up in the morning and say, this is a bad day, this is a dark day. You wake up in the morning, you look out the window, it's a cloudy day like today. So this is a very important mashal out the Rebbe is giving. Because in the metaphor, it's very not exact, because in the metaphor it's all physical. The sun is there, I'm here, right? So you say, yeah, the sun is, for the sun it's not winter, for me it is winter. Here in the Nimshal, it's completely different. The sun is not a physical entity, thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of miles away. You're talking about the sun here is, as he puts it, the Ein Sof. Ein Sof is not in heaven more than it's in earth. So he says, all Brias HaOlam, all creation of the world is an uptaich in Oir. I want you to appreciate the Haggadah. It's a taich in Oir. Mitzad Oir, there's Taka Brias HaOlam. Because that's what Olam is, and that's the concept of dibur, words, divine energy being articulated in words. It's another mashal for Oir. Or another word he uses his name, Yishtabach Shim Chalad Malkeinu. Or another expression is Ma'aseh Yadecha. All different expressions which represent different layers and different worlds. You can't compare Ma'aseh to a name. When I call your name, you're going to turn around. When I hold the vessel that you built, you're not going to turn around. You don't even know that I'm holding it. But it all represents the energy, the way it's articulated in what's called the world. But Ani Hashem, in the Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, the same oneness and the same infinity of pre-creation is still present post-creation. So from that perspective, with the sun is the ray of the sun in the core of the sun doesn't occupy any separate significant space. So he says the soul senses this. The neshama has an antenna that senses this. He says, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, v'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisa. How could you not be, if you got this, how could you not be moved by this? And what's the experience of this, as he says? The experience of this is, the mashal that he used was, Ilazois to shofech hanefesh al cheika via mamish. Lias nichsef avagam kol senavsh lias b'bchinas bittul mamish elav yizbarach levade. K'ma shekasav mili b'shamayim. I'm just quoting from last time. I'm impressed by my father's talents or skills or richness or accomplishments or the beautiful things he acquired or created. But he says, a child, I just want my father. I want my father himself. To shafech hanefesh al cheik aviyah mamish. I want the core truth. I want the core reality. If you say Briyas Ha'olam is an uptight in Oir, it's an inyan of Dibur, so that means all of reality can be traced back to the way it's the sun itself. Ani Hashem Lo Shenisi. And here the Achdus is absolute. The moment a person gets this on a visceral level, I'm not talking about as an intellectual equation, because the moment it's a cheshbon, it's not called getting it. It says, "Va'atem b'nei Yaakov lo yichilisam." How could you not have klais hanefesh? That's the question he was left with. That was the main point of the shir. Just summarizing it. So now the Waldani continues. No, I meant that the clouds block the light of the sun. They don't block the sun. The sun doesn't get diminished in its core, in the solar core, because it's cloudy in our area.
We see what the sun does with cloud, without cloud. We see the goodness that comes out of the sun. So we can say that.
Yeah, his lashon it's a very interesting lashon. What's his lashon now? His lashon is the chayis hamalubish b'chol ha'olam is a koyach chitzoni va'ada ba'alma she'enei negeya la'atzmus u'mehus ha'nefesh. Just like the koyach ha'maisa. Right. When I put the maisa, I'm building the keli, so my koyach ha'maisa went in. Yeah. Yeah. Right. You're right.
How does the sun deal with the cloudy day?
Now, obviously, it's a mashal. The point is that light can be eclipsed. The earth can be eclipsed, right? But the ray of the sun, the way it's communicated into my house or to my world, doesn't define or redefine or darken the sun itself. The sun itself, it's not even negay, it doesn't touch it. It doesn't affect it in any way. It doesn't diminish its intensity, its heat, its light, its warmth. But in the metaphor, the sun itself is in one place. The ray is in another place. The ray travels to Earth. It takes 8 minutes. 8 minutes for the light to come from the sun to Earth, right? The light that we see when we look at the sun, it's really 8 minutes later. You're not seeing the sun the way it's now. You're seeing it 8 minutes ago because it takes 8 minutes for the light to travel, and we know it only from the light. So our experience is that the light, it's cloudy today, or I put down the Venetian blind, so it's very dark. Or I build a wall and I don't see anything. I eclipse it completely. That's the way the sun comes out through the ray, which is an expression, but it's ispashtus, it's a ha'ara. The sun itself remains unscathed, undarkened, unaffected. In a good way, unaffected. Not unaffected. Unaffected doesn't mean it doesn't care. We're not talking about if it cares. May care. So the same is true about reality. This is just a metaphor for reality. That Brias Ha'olam, even the highest world, it's all an uptaich Ur. It's a taich in Ur. It's an experience that happens in Ur. But in that very space of reality, yeah, there is complete infinity, complete achdus, echad, yachad, and meyuchad, without any separation and any blockage.
Not even an 8-minute delay.
Without an 8-minute delay. If I heard what I was saying now, I should start dancing. If you heard what I said now, you should start dancing. Problem is, I didn't hear what I said now. That's what Rebbe is saying. Why are you so calm? This is what you learned. This is how you teifus the Maimer. You hear what he's saying? I'm saying dancing. He says klois hanefesh. It's even more than dancing. At least start dancing, huh?
Sounds like a native.
A what?
A native.
No.
It seems like it's like
Gan Eden is also oil. Mili b'shamayim. Even Gan Eden he doesn't want. It's a nice place, Gan Eden. We're not mevatel Gan Eden, but that's not the nakuda. Your neshama is dancing. But the chiddush is that the guf tanzt. Ani Hashem lo shanisi touches the body as much as the soul. It's not a neshama zach.
It's an 8-minute delay for the
And that's the difference of mamala kalaman and soiv kalaman. In mamala kalaman is oir. That's what mamala kalaman means. Mamala kalaman is oir. It's the light. It's the ray. And therefore it fills the world. It's the words that vivify and create the structure of every nivra based on its chemistry and its consciousness. It's the way I experience the light. And that is all based on the frequency of the light. Light has measurement and length and breadth and intensity. And different creatures get different light, just like physically. Some, there's birds see things that I can't see. There's colors that we don't see. They have different kalim. I don't have those kalim. Bria gets the light in a different way than Yitzira and Asiya. Every person gets it differently. That's Mamale Kalalma. That's one inyan. But with the inyan of Seviv Kalalma, that's Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. Pre-creation, post-creation. Not because there was no creation. Not because it's not that the sun doesn't get affected because it didn't send out a ray of light. It did send out a ray of light. But that ray inside the core doesn't create a change in the sun, and you say that the sun is any less because it's not shining outside. In the Nibshul, the sun is here, so this ray is inside the core. The way the ray is inside the core, so to speak, again, it's a metaphor. It's a very imperfect metaphor. But it represents the fact that at any single moment, in any single experience, the most natural state is klois hanefesh, which means complete oneness between the person and Ein Sof and Hashem himself. In very simple language, if we want to use that simple language, all the blockages and all the confusions and all the knots that I may experience are all the way I am processing the light that's coming into me based on whatever my life experiences are, and my brain power, and my identity, and my story, and my history. And that becomes the definition of self. That becomes the story of self, my conceptualized self. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi means that in that very state, very moment, there's also the real nakuda, where you're completely not detached or separated or broken in any way. And the beginning of the brokenness is not a terrible story that happened. That's much later. The beginning is that the light leaves the core, that there is a concept of self. And that's the uptaich of Bria Sa'olam, which is an uptaich in Oir. But the truth is, Ani Hashem Leishanisi. Ya Rabbi Yosef.
Are you saying that or is Male and more the same?
Yeah, you could say that.
So it was when a person relates better to the more is an expression of Ratzon. So the Abish has a Ratzon to have a connection with us. Wouldn't that elicit more of a close and effort than just knowing that there's a more?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
But she's saying that because the Abish wants that relationship with us, so therefore I want that relationship back.
You're asking a deep question. This is always the missing link. You're saying, so then the soul pours out to the Father completely.
He wants us.
Yeah, but if Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi and there's nothing there, so the soul is also not here. so then the soul is not here. So why are you talking about this? That's where people lose the nakuda. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi is not a definition only of God, it's a definition of you. You understand? That's the vart of the Alter Rebbe in the Maimonides. If it's really Ein Sof, it's the definition of you, of me, and of the world. In other words, Bria Sa'olam, the way we perceive it, even on the highest level of spiritual consciousness, is a Taichin Oir. Within Meir, what's the definition of everything, of Welt? Complete Achdus, complete Klois HaNefesh, complete Bittul. Anything is a distortion and a distraction. And this is even the highest spiritual consciousness. Because even the highest spiritual consciousness and awareness, which is incredibly sensitive and perceptive.
You say that for bringing that person has to have certain gashmis so that his Medrash is happy. Right? The Medrash always has to be sad.
This is not against Gashmis. This is Gashmis too.
I got it. All you relate to yourself as an or, all that you're looking, thinking about, then it's not possible. We're human.
Yeah, we are human. Huh?
It's a very minor process. How can you exclusively look at yourself as an or? You can't. I mean, until after you know the show is separate from the book.
I think I have to meditate. The worst thing I can do is answer your question. It's the worst thing I can do. Huh?
Another idea you tried. They accomplished. No conscious come from clippers.
Yeah. Mitzad this inyan of Sevav Kalalman, there's no earth is not lower than heaven. Earth is lower than heaven in Mamalik Kalalman. You understand? Over there, there's Ruchnius and there's Gashmius. Ruchnius is the way Elikus is articulated through spirituality. Let's call it spiritual feelings, spiritual experiences, mystical experiences, transcendental experiences, deep emotions, love, connection, holiness. And Gashmius is the way Elikus is articulated through a tree and a potato and a banana and an onion and celery and cucumbers. Yeah, in other words, the goes through the process that it now reflected through a cucumber, or through a sheep, or through a donkey, or through a cat, or through a nefesh habamas, through my body, through my nervous system, through my brain, through my heart. That's what Gashmis is. And that's what the Malak al-Almin is, that the El-Helikus goes through Baruch Sha'amar v'haya olam. So the Rebbe says, what are you thinking by davening? Baruch Sha'amar v'haya olam. Ganz Welt is a Wort. It's a Wort. So was best das eine Spal. Some people say, Baruch Shama v'haya olam. Oh my God. I say all day I speak, nobody does anything. Right? People try telling their wife and their kids all day what they want. Nobody does a thing. And God, Baruch Shama, boom! Right? That's how you do. Baruch Shama v'haya, and that's Taka the Taich. The Rebbe says Taka the Taich. Baruch Shama v'haya olam. The whole world was an Amma. Okay. Vanished as in his Paul. Malchuscha malchus kol elamim. Malchuscha malchus kol elamim. It's dibur. It's Baruch Hashem Elokeinu b'shamayim ma'al al kol shevach ma'aseh yadech. He's not eliminating the spilus of Hashem creating the world. Don't think that's what he's doing. But he's being megala the oimek, right? The oimek of Achdus Hashem that the Baal Shem Tov wanted to be megala. My siyadecha is my dick. My handiwork is not God's handiwork. I can't do what he did with his my siyadecha. Hashamayim et haneretz. It's a ganz feine my siyadecha. But my siyadecha represents what? A levush chitzoni, the power of Maisa, like when you build a keli. Somebody wants a relationship with their mother or their father, yeah, and their father or mother says, hey, go. I fixed that washing machine. Go hold on to the washing machine. You'll have a relationship with me. Or a father says, I manufacture pencils. Here's one of my pencils. You'll have a relationship with me. Or even if I'm an artist, here's a picture. Here's a picture. Right? You need a lot of therapy for that. What? So we do that all the time. Here, take this. Do me a favor. Somebody was once by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he asked the Rebbe if he can have a picture of his. He says, what do you want my picture? He says, Ich will sein mekusher. I want to be connected. So I'm going to give you my picture, that's how we begin connected. He said, Ich lehre Chassidus, du lehre Chassidus, weil mir sein eins. It'll be more than a picture. I learn Chassidus, you learn Chassidus, we'll become one. It'll be much more than, I'll give you my picture. Huh? Yeah. Then we'll take become one. So he says, a child, I built a beautiful keli, I give it to my child, I said, here you have your father. A keli is good for a store. You need a keli. So he said, that's what the neshama wants. The keli is beautiful what the father did, and you can respect it and admire it and the skill. But he says, I want the bahus, I want the essence, I want the core. And the soul picks this up. The soul is sensitive to this. If the soul wasn't sensitive to this, you can't say, why shouldn't you be moved by it? You're not moved by it because I'm not moved by it. But the soul knows that everything else is really a compromised, diluted depiction of reality. But you have to remember this, and this is true about all of them. Whenever he speaks about Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, he's not talking about God, he's talking about everything. To put it this way, Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi means that you stop saying the word God. The word God is a product of the problem. You understand? It's some Metzias called God. So there's God's Metzias, there's my Metzias. The question is our relationship. That's already the beginning of what Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi does not mean. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi is the ultimate definition of reality. Or to put it this way, the ultimate definition of reality transcends the word reality. Did that make any sense? It wasn't supposed to. The ultimate definition of reality transcends even the word reality. Just the word God is a dangerous word because it's an entity. There's a table and there's a God. God is bigger, stronger, infinite, powerful. But you understand, there's you and there's me. The question is, what type of connection do we have? I like you, I hate you, I really hate you, I ignore you, you drive me crazy, you don't drive me crazy. I want a relationship with you. The truth is, this word that I'm saying is even Memalik Kalalman. Even Memalik Kalalman, God is not a Metzias. Even Memalik Kalalman, he calls it Chaye HaChayim, the life of all life. So it's your heartbeat. It's your soul. That's even Memalik Kalalman. The Oid is the Oid of everything. But Seviv Kalalman tells us much more. Seviv Kalalman tells us that everything can be traced back to pre-Bria Sa'olam. Even the world, because the uptaich of Bria is an uptaich in Oir, not in Moyer. In Moyer there was no Bria. You understand? In Moyer there was no Bria. So is there a world or there's no world? He's denying the whole title that there's a world. He didn't know there was a world. How's he saying this Maimer if there's no world? Somebody should have asked Alter Rebbe, you really believe this, so why are you saying this Maimer? Isn't that a good question? Huh? You really believe this, so stop saying the Maimer. You believe that you're allowed to say a Maimer? That's Ani Hashem lo Yishanisi besides you. Like somebody used to say, Ani v'Hashem lo Yishanisi. Ani v'Hashem, or Ein Oid Milvadi. Almost the same. Right? There was once a yeshiva bacher. He was a letz. So it was Thanksgiving. He came from a real American family. So Thanksgiving is a mitzvah to eat turkey. And he liked to eat. So he got himself a turkey, and early in the morning he was lying upstairs in the shul in 770 in the small zal. And he was on a bench eating turkey. And he made a niggin. Which means the river is mine. I created myself. I exist and nothing else exists. And he was eating turkey. So the Rebbe came into shul and he walked into the Bais Medrash and he saw it and he enjoyed it very much. He gave a big laugh. Well, what's the point? Aniva Afsiyoid. Asked Alter Rebbe, you really believe this? Why are you saying a Maimer? You're very effective. You're sitting and saying a Maimer about this. Doesn't that disprove your whole theory? Why did nobody ever ask this question? And what's the answer to this question? What's the answer to the question I just asked? Alter Rebbe was once traveling. You know the Monsey was once traveling. And a widow, an almana, had two little kids. And she brought them to get a bracha. One of them, his name was Yisro. So he went up to the wagon, wherever he was, to ask a bracha. The mother brought him. She was a widow. So the boy asked Alter Rebbe if he can ask a question. He said, Javada. So this is what he asked. He said, V'bald mezog Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad V'kemen zogen v'yahaftom Ver vet lib haben dem Ebersten. It's doch nicht da can do. Once you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, how could you say v'ahafta? You should love. There's no you to love. V'ahafta. You should love. Oh, really? You? Where did the you suddenly emerge from? Where were you hatched? If you believe Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, how can you say v'ahafta? So Alter Rebbe thought for a moment, and he said, "Valin mitten sagt men Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Elolam Vat." That's what he answered. In the middle, you say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Elolam Vat. That's what he answered. This Yisro became the Yisro Ruzhiner. He was the Ruzhiner. Some 8-year-olds think about these things. They say that Alter Rebbe said that 8-jährige Kind hat gefragt, was die ältere Chassidim haben nicht gefragt. An 8-year-old boy asked what older Chassidim didn't ask. He became the Bistol of Ruzhin, the Helic Illusion that they called them, the Helic Illusion. But you hear his question. You're now in love with me. So suddenly you exist and now you're in love. There's going to learn later in the Maimer, there's a Mishnah in Psachim. Anshe Yerichoi hoyu korchen es Shema. The people of Yericho used to sandwich Shema. Somebody says, what do you mean korchen? What, they make a sandwich? He says, they took out Baruch Shem. They sandwiched together Shema Yisrael and V'ahavta. Boom! They took out the... Why? He says, they didn't want Baruch Shem. They wanted the v'ahavta that comes from Shema Yisrael. But what's taka the vart? The vart is Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay Leilam Vad is already consciousness. Shem, Kvoid, Malchusay, look at all the words. What's blessed? Your name, your glory, your royalty. B'meila Leilam Vad. Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad has different oisius. Doesn't say their name, doesn't say oy, doesn't say kavod, doesn't say malchus. Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay Leilam Vad is called in Zoya Yichud Tata. It's a lower level of unity. It's the Yichud Mitzad Mamale. Shema Yisrael is a higher level of Achdus. I say higher, I don't mean higher on a higher floor. It's a deeper place of reality. So how could he say a maimer and speak about Ani Hashem Leishanis? Could anybody answer that question, please? But he didn't say Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay in this maimer. Huh? Right, but how could you honestly say Ani Hashem lo yishanisi v'atem b'nei Yaakov lo yichilis? But there's no shini before Bria and after the Bria. So how are you saying a maimer? So you also don't exist. Huh? He's talking about what he experienced before Bria Olam, before birth. And at the Chetzt.
Including the cash after you say a nightmare, so maybe you know nightmare.
I know you gave a good answer, but I didn't understand it, so say it again. I heard it was a good answer, but I didn't understand. Zog Nachamo.
This is proof that we have a kasha. Why are you saying a nightmare shows that there's a tachtin? In other words, there's a madrega which doesn't inherit this birth. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. No, I need a Hashlishi. In other words, the one who's asking this kasha.
Em Gufa Loshanis. Oh.
This we need a husband.
Nebach. Oilam HaHezbeh Daf HaMaimer. Right. So I'll just try to explain what my son is saying. Okay. I'll try to explain what I was saying. Ani Hashem lo yishanisi is not saying simply in English, you don't exist. You thought you exist, and now I'm going to tell you you don't exist. Okay. You thought you had a big ego, or maybe you thought you had a small ego. You liked yourself or you hated yourself. That depends. What happened in therapy yesterday. And I'm going to tell you, like, hate, you don't even exist. Right? In other words, you thought you like yourself, you hate yourself. How do you get from hating yourself to liking yourself? Which is a good question. So now I'm going to tell you the news. Yeah? What's the news? The news is, l'chatchila, you don't exist. It's like asking, coming into the office to the therapist and saying, could nothingness like itself? Hate itself? You don't exist to love or hate. There's no love, there's no hate. Now here I'm going to stop for a moment. I don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to stop for a moment in parentheses, because there's always somebody who hears this and say, and you can understand why if you stop here and you have a really, really, really shattered self-esteem, right? The worst thing the person can hear is, love yourself, hate yourself. You're not even a mitzias to ask the question. Which is why some people who learn Chassidus from a lens of terrible, terrible internal pain shut down immediately, and for good reason. I understand them. They read Ani Hashem lo yishanisi. You're just like before Bria Sa'olam. Everything is ayin ve'efes mamash. At least yesterday the therapist told me it's based on what happened to you when you were 2 years old, and your mother said this and your father said this, so you have a low self-esteem. Comes down to Rebbe and says, you could have had the best house in the world. You're a shaita. You don't even exist to have a self-esteem. I'm struggling my whole life to find myself, to have a Pesach Shivas. So you came and said, oh, by the way, B'riyas Ha'olam never happened, mister. You were never born. In order to die, you have to be born, right? So your therapist is helping you be born. He's telling you, so there's no levaya. You don't need a levaya. You don't need chavre kadisha. You don't need a matzeva. You don't have to struggle to make a matzeva. You weren't born. No, I see this constantly. People learn, yeah, and they're like, "What's so inspiring?" My whole life, I'm trying to when my wife tells me something, I shouldn't fade into oblivion. Literally fade. My kid says something, I shouldn't fade. The guy in shul looks at me the wrong way and didn't say good Shabbos. Yeah, I shouldn't have anxiety for the next 3 years till Kiddush Levane B'Ayar. Comes the Maimon and says, by the way, your whole search is ludicrous because you don't even exist. But then you're going to tell me, but put on tefillin. Well, so I do exist. So for tefillin, I do exist. And in a way, it makes it worse. For what you want, I do exist. For what I need, oh, you're nothing. So now it becomes even more complicated. Okay. Yeah, so what my son is saying is, and this is what you have to be typhus, is it's punkt farkert. What? The Chiddush of Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi is that that's the true definition of the I. The Tzemach Tzedek has a lashon, Ani Oisius Ayin. The word Ani is the same word like the word Ayin, the different letters. You have to reconfigure the letters. And he writes in Derech Mitzvah, V'zeu kol inyan Chassidus. And then he puts it in Yiddish, Es is nishtakin ich. That's a Tzedek's lashon, Derech Mitzvah. V'zeu kol inyan Chassidus. Es, he spells it Ayin sin. Es is nishtakin ich. How do you hear these words? The real Ani is Ayin. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi, that's your Ani. There's no self-esteem in the world that comes close to this self-esteem. All the self-esteem in the world is after you are broken 100 billion times, I'm going to tell you that you still have a place in the world. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi is Klois HaNefesh, your ultimate Ani is the Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi. The Ein Sof Mamish. So you say, oh, so now the Maimon gave me self-esteem. That's also a wrong pshat. You were never looking for self-esteem. You don't need self-esteem. My need for self-esteem is part of my trauma. That's what he's saying. People are often, they miss the whole nakuda. It's not that once Rabbi Y or Mendel Jacobson explained that Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi means also you. Okay, so now I have self-esteem. That's not the part. The Herst. Self-esteem is an important. Ich mach nicht up self-esteem. I need self-esteem. You need self-esteem. We all need self-esteem. Self-esteem is a good thing. Everyone. Self-esteem means you have self-respect. It's very important. In a world of Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leilam Vat, self-esteem is a good thing. Nobody should think I'm not knocking self-esteem. But the chiddush of the Maimer is the real self-esteem is Bittul Mamish, Klois HaNefesh, Soivav Kalam, Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi, Ani Oisis Ayin. That's the real Ani. To put it this way, when you put the Ani in a picture of self-esteem, you're killing the Ani. Self-esteem is one of the worst pressures. Leave me alone with my self-esteem. Blah, 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 blah. Self-esteem. And the truth is, this is even in Mamala Kalalman. Even in Mamala Kalalman, the Yisro is bittul because it's the Lakus of you, not the Chitzonis of you. But in the emes of Soiv Kalalman, it's the Chatchila one Achtos of Ein Sof.
Second, somebody experiences this. Like, I go past Baruch Shem and I touch my Yisro, experience Soiv. That moment becomes my knowledge. So I can try it.
Yeah.
There's no way to touch it, so I mean, that's where the close nefesh comes from.
Yeah.
It's not. We were saying before with humans, that's not possible. There's a second soiv automatically becomes moral, like the second experience. So it's by definition close nefesh.
Right. You mean yearning for more?
The Gemara says,
What do you mean by definition, Klei Nefesh?
Transition. By definition, it's
After the yearning, when it's connected.
the soiv. Okay, now I just experienced this. I just experienced the soiv. It's not soiv anymore. Now it's normal. There's nothing the nefesh can do with that.
Right.
Call it yearning. It doesn't.
Right. So you understand what he's saying? The moment I experience this, what do I experience? The moment I experience this, so it's an experience. It is an experience. That's already soiviv transformed, so to speak, into a mala. Because in the oneness of Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, there's no I to experience it. There's no I that says, I'm connected. Not because there's no self-esteem, but because you transcended self-esteem. Your self-esteem became part of divine esteem. Huh? Part of Hashem, yeah. So they'll say, how can the Rebbe say a maimer about this? That's the maimer too. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a mouth. God says, oh, sorry, the world is too threatening for me. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi means that every nakuda of the world is Ein Sof. Even Bria Sa'olam is Ein Sof. The world that was created that you're experiencing as separate is also Moir, it's also Atzmos. So your mouth and your body and your nervous system and your brain. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi doesn't negate anything, because if it does, it's anything but that. But the moment I come back to experience, right, it's already the way it exists within my eye, and therefore there's the Klois HaNefesh. That the Nefesh wants Bittul Mamish. So the moment if a person really experiences this, and obviously the Alter Rebbe felt that people can experience this. If not, he wouldn't talk about this. So the Navi is saying, how are you not moved? How could you just sit still if this is it? If it's just a philosophy, fine, who cares? It's a philosophy, fine. Sheina Zachen. But if it's nakuda, if it touches the nakuda hapnimis, so how could you remain intact? That's meshuggah werden. Like Elisa. You wanted to say something? Yeah.
also, you taught us several times that the Rebbe has to feel somehow,
Yeah.
problem of custom. Another reason why the Alter might need to learn so that he can somehow relate to the science of this position, the Voida. Another thing I want to say is that the Chazal say, so you see, even the greatest, I mean, they're talking about Tanaim and Amoraim, so even they had a self-esteem issue. It's not like, if a person has to serve, sometimes he has to have that angle.
Yeah.
There's no escaping, he has to acknowledge it and even feed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what my son was saying. The Alter Rebbe is saying a mime because in a world where you don't feel Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, he's saying that also is Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. So don't say a mime don't exist. That's not the Vart. Yeah, God didn't have to create existence. That's true. You can ask a better question. If Ani Hashem lo shanisi, why do you create a world? Why are you making problems? So you create a lie, and then the whole life we're spending time saying it's a lie? Create a lie, and then a whole life I'm busy. No, the machta sheker, and now a whole busy tells him that I'm a liar. Thank you. If Ani Hashem lo shanisi, so why is there a whole world and a reality where the opposite? And then you're busy telling me, oh, by the way, you don't know what you're talking about. You're completely blind and confused. The answer is that was the kavanah. It's not a mistake. The kavanah was that there's a person who's embodied and experiences identity. And in that space, with that body and that nervous system and nefesh habahamis and mouth and mind, over there you align that with Ani Hashem lo shanisi. If you want everybody to be dead, fine. Don't create a world. We would have all been dead. It would have been fine. Perfect. Ani Hashem lo shanisi means you're dead, you're nothing. I don't even want to look at you. You're such a nothing, you never even existed. Shekayach. Klois HaNefesh is the opposite of abuse. Klois HaNefesh means the soul is free. That within a world where l'chayra you're imprisoned and you're stuck and there's brokenness and there's confusion and there's disappointment and there's uncertainty, over there you're completely free. Uninhibited. Your mind is free, your heart is free, your soul is free. You could dance till the end of reality. The Bezil bist Teufels? Huh? Du bist Teufels or is it Teufels dir? Welche? You grasp it or it grasps you? Or is there a difference? You say you can't be Teufels it, because if you Teufels it, shenish Ani Hashem lo shanisi. Experience it, but could you even experience it? Saying it's the ultimate experience and there's no experience, right? Tachlis hayidiyah shaloi neidacha. If what? If I'm not one? Saying even in the brain. Says a kind was hat sich gehad wird mit Chassidus. Huh? Why? Again, why? That one?
The brain doesn't understand,
so then it's Ani Hashem Shanisi. You're saying if Ani Hashem lo shanisi, so the brain too. What's the stira? Huh? That's,
then we have a big problem.
because it means it stops here. So this is very deep. You have to be because we always say the brain can't. The brain can't grasp because the brain has its way of grasping it, right? But in the ultimate reality, and that's the real geula, is if it really transcends all consciousness and experience, then it could permeate all consciousness and experience. In other words, if bittul requires ultimate bittul, it's not the ultimate bittul. But he's saying it's deeper than that. If it's mitzad mekabel, you don't know it's Ani Hashem lo shanisi, then it's not Ani Hashem lo shanisi. The rest, I could feel because I'm not. Fine, but now I have to redefine the feeling. Now I have to go deeper into the feeling. That's lamata mata adin tachlis, like the previous Maimon Basi Lagani. You're saying I don't feel it. You're right. I know I don't feel it. That's why we're talking about it. But he's saying if I can't grasp it, it's not ani Hashem lo shanisi. Okay, you're right. V'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisa. Yeah. That was the whole nakuda. The Alter Rebbe was miyaseh the shitta, right? It was called Chassidus Chabad. The word Chabad is chachma bina das. So there are those who make a mistake and think that the friends of the colleagues of the Alter Rebbe, they didn't have such an intellectual bent. The Alter Rebbe, this Talmidim of the Maggid called him a Litvak, the Litvak. And Litvaks are known to be analytical and very into lumdas and upgeteicht and hagdaras, right? It's the Litvish contribution, so to speak. Als upgeteicht, mit hagdaras, mit biyurim, mit shnei dinim, zwei dinim, a din and das, a gavra, a chafetz. The Alter Rebbe, they called him the Litvak. So you could see from his Shulchan Aruch that he was, you could see his lumdas a little bit of what we could see. So in Chassidus also, if you open up a Kedushas Levi or a Be'er Mayim Chaim or an Oyer HaMeir or a Magid Varav L'Yakov or a Keser Shem Tov or a Butzina de Nahira, a Noyam Elimelech, a Mar V'Shemesh, all the early Sfarim of the first generations of Chassidus, Avodas Yisrael, Oyev Yisrael. So it's Verte on the Parshas. It's beautiful, beautiful Verte, right? The Baditchever. Parshas Yisro has one paragraph, another paragraph, and it's on the Parshas. It's Vertlach, and the Vertlach are very inspiring. Reb Nachman, L'Kutei Maran is longer, but it's ideas, powerful ideas. Alter Rebbe, you see, every Maimer builds a system. It's a system. It's a very analytical system, and based on Kabbalah and Chassidus. Even the Tanya, it's an encyclopedic work on Avodas Hashem, al Piteris Abal Shem Tov. You don't have that in Chassidus besides the Tanya. Like a lechatchiladik work. What do we believe in? Not a vart on Parshas Yisro, geschmack a vart that's ma'ored in Neshama. Because that's what Alter Rebbe, he was very systematic. He wanted to develop the shit of Chassidus. So those who think that that's what his angle was, Chachma, Bina Das, it should be intellectual, it should be organized, it should be structured, it should be like they used to call that Afalitvish Neufen. But when you learn the Maimonim, you see that that's not the nakuda. That's not the nakuda. Those who are more emotional and those he was more intellectual. The emotions in the Maimonim are Ein Sof. The nakuda was something much deeper than that. The Alter Rebbe felt that if Ani Hashem lo nisi mamish, so then Chachma Bina Das, which represent the structure of self, is also part of Achdus Hashem. So the Ein Sof that the Baal Shem Tov wanted to be Megala needs to permeate Chacham Bina Das, that instead of being a blockage for Achdus, they should become the conduit for Achdus. And then the body and the Nefesh HaBahamas and the whole self can be realigned with its true identity. B'stoifus. You went, woo, what did you hear that you did? Huh? That's the Vart. Yeah, it's not. There's the intellectual Chassidus. It's more intellectual. In other words, it could be more cerebral, more cold, more mathematical, right? Which is why some people have a hard time, by the way, with it. Just give me a fast, good Vart to make me feel good about myself and my marriage and my family and the fact that I'm Jewish, and leave me alone. You know what I mean? Huh? Yeah, and then there's intellectual people that are called maskilim. There was a Yid who passed away this week. His name was Abisal Gordon. He was an old Chabad Chassid. So he told me once, he passed away this week, so I remember now. He told me that he was once sitting by a Farbrengen of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rayatz, in the 1940s, the early 1940s, or mid-1940s. So he said there was somebody there sitting at the Farbrengen, and in his words, he wasn't so smart. He had a good head, he knew a lot, but in fact, working on himself, internalization, was a little difficult for him. And he said he looked like he wanted to impress the Rebbe Rayatz. So he tells the Rebbe, in the middle of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he says, the Tate, your father, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, hat sehr nicht lieb gehabt, the Deutsch. He didn't like the Germans in the First World War, 1914. The Germans, there was the First World War, so they came to Russia. It was a war between Russia and Germany. So the Rebbe Rashab lived in Lubavitch, which is Belarus, and the Germans were approaching, so he left. He didn't want to be under the Germans. It's during the First World War. So the Tata hat sehr nicht lieb gehabt, the Deutsch. He was talking about in the First World War that your father... So Mr. Gordon told me, the Rebbe gave a look at him. I says, het zeer nicht lieb gehad. A maskel was tut nicht in avoide. What he really disliked was somebody who learns and understands, but doesn't internalize it. A maskel was tut nicht in avoide. That's what he really disliked. What's my point? Yeah. Sometimes you're not Chassidus, Chabad, it's intellectual. The word is, if Ani Hashem lo shanisi, he felt the only way is if it's integrated. Yeah, I can have an experience with the death of ego in a moment of Mesiras Nefesh, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. But what about integration? Can I live with it? And the answer is, how can I live with it? I'm sitting here. After this, I'm going to go somewhere. I live with it. How do I live with it? You're just telling me I don't exist. For this, you need to work through Chachma bin Adas. You have to work through all the protectors. You got to work through all the managers, as they call it. You got to work through... I'm not talking here the clippers, the negative clippers. I'm talking here the positive clippers. Not the negative ones. That you also have to work through, obviously. Then I can't have access with it. But I'm talking about Chachma bin Adas. That creates the structure of self. I think I am, therefore I am, right? I'm aware, and how do you know you exist? There's some consciousness that you're tuning into. Well, how do I know I exist? I don't know what the table knows about itself, but I'm feeling something about me, right? I have to work through that system. Can that become a conduit for Ein Sof? That was the nakuda of Chachma bin Adas. Not Chachma bin Adas, that's the destination. That's the beginning. It's not the destination, it's the beginning. To open up a conduit that instead of becoming a distraction, it becomes a conduit. And that's the whole Avodas Hashem al pi the Balatanya, the integration of the Ein Sof Mamash with every fiber of my being, even when I'm in a place of regular day-to-day experiences, where yes, I'm thinking and I'm talking and I'm functioning and I'm walking. And if you just tell me I don't exist, you're not telling me anything. Thank you. So what do you want me to do? Shoot myself? You're not allowed to. Ma'abadat Smiladas. The Chevra Teuf is what I'm saying. Mendel, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing is, how could anything in the world be a hell of a hester? If that's shaykhs as Amitzias, then how's any of violation is? Look at the Matthias of the world.
Excellent. He's saying, if Ani Hashem lo shanisi, how could there be a perception of not? Right? So the answer is mitzad the kavan of dira b'tachtoinim, which right, but a lie doesn't exist, right? Madoff's Ponzi scheme blows up at some point. No, that's what he's asking. He doesn't know about Madoff Ponzi scheme. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. There's no Ponzi scheme, including the Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
He's taking from his perspective, talking cash is a small cash.
It's not the Irish to talk to you know, it's not you don't know.
You weiter, you say that. But that's not Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi. Hashem Lo Yishanisi is you. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi means you, not him. As is a große Weisig. Will sagen, na du bist der Helic von dem.
That's why time is so depressing, because you don't.
It's not depressing.
For me, it is.
The word depressing, I
I
don't know.
need to say, when you learn it, you realize what you are, and how vast is the chasm between you and godliness.
The word is not depressing. The word is compassion. You're looking for a different word. There's a lot of compassion.
I think it's very, it's actually very, if that's what you can become, you could become godly.
It's crushing.
Exactly. The word compassion, it's a much more important word. Compassion means I have compassion. But whenever you have compassion, it means that you know there is something to have compassion for. Right? You look at a poor person, a wretched human being, right? You say where he used to be, from riches to the abyss. What are you having compassion for? You're having compassion because you see a glory there. Compassion by definition means there's something to have compassion for. Something so amazing. That's the word, not depressing. Compassion.
Say crushing. I meant to say crushing.
Also not crushing.
I know it because you're looking at it from my perspective. I feel sometimes.
I want to change your perspective. Okay. Not my ego. My bittel wants to change your perspective. Depressing is not the vart. Depressing is a part of klippah. As Tanya says, in Perek Chavav, depressing is klippah.
It's like saying a kid going into first grade math. It's depressing because to be a mathematician, you have to go through 50 grades. That's not depressing. That's what
and also depression feeds into the distance. Depression feeds into the myth of disconnection. That's what depression is. Depression is I'm a loser. The whole vart is the opposite.
They say a Chacham when he starts and he looks at how fast he has to go. So he says, "I'll do a little bit now and then I'll get there." Right? And Shaita says, "Oh my gosh, there's so much."
Right.
But I'm just saying that it's an avoidance to fight that feeling that when you see how much you have to go.
But I just want to say that feeling itself also needs compassion. That feeling itself is all part of the distance. That also needs compassion.
He needs the Sefer Tzadikim. Yes, take the Sefer Tzadikim out of this. This is Sefer Boy and
Because
we're painting him. Not Tzadikim.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Maybe he'll rewrite the Sefer Tzadikim.
Huh?
There's no feeling, there's no
Was sagst du? Sag besser, huh?
Way too deep.
Yeah. 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 Of course. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi in a world where you could completely say the opposite. You're right. Pre-Bria is Taka Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi. The Chiddush is that the post-Bria, in the world where there's a person, there's the Achdus. Yeah.
It looks like there's no Shanisi. But this whole thing doesn't either exist. There's nothing exists. So, and there's no Shanisi.
You're right. You're right. But the Kavanah is integration. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi.
You can learn a little bit to grasp it a little bit. It's a steal with Ani Hashem
The
fact that it looks that
it is.
this dimion that makes me think that there's no.
But that's Shanisi.
It's not Shanisi because the Tzad Aibsh, this dimion doesn't even exist. The Tzad Aibsh, this dimion is also part of it.
But in my world it exists. So there is such a world.
The Tzad Aibsh, there's no. no life, there's no you, there's no Dimion, there's no your it's all part of the Eibishter.
Eventually you get to that level. That's the ideal.
The Eibishter created the Hester also. The Hester is also part of it.
Oh, so that's the Maimer Ner Chanukah Tafresh Mem Gimel.
So you talk to have a Hester.
That in Ner Chanukah Mem Gimel, that's what he discusses. But you have to talk about the Hester. Okay, we'll take a break here. Not tomorrow, Monday morning. Yeah.
מורה ועובדה ברשות הציבור הקדוש, באנו עבור אשתי עם הנעשה